right?
Moved in
Sitting
next
right
week.
next to me.
I am glad to hear, Madam Chair, that you're for consumers having choices. I think that's very important. I also look forward to working with you on your bill, 1147, I believe, that deals with making sure that consumers have the information that they
Right.
need. I would say, as we work forward on that piece of legislation, it looks to me right now that it includes such a huge volume that many consumers probably wouldn't read it. So what we have to do is try to figure out where the sweet spot is, and I look forward to working with you on that, because I do think it's important that consumers know if they're buying an alternative product, that A, it is an alternative product, and B, that it doesn't cover everything, but here's what it does cover. Because as you pointed out, Ms. Turner, many folks are looking for something because they cannot afford the plans that fall under the ACA with all the mandates that are there. Could you repeat the quote from Senator Bryce Reeves? Since I'm from Virginia, while his district is about 4 hours away, I do think it's instructive to hear from him again. Could you repeat that for us?
Yes, Senator Reeves was at an event, speaking at an event, and had just gotten an email from a constituent saying that he had just received his health care bill to provide for his family, and the premium was $4,000 a month, which he said is more than my mortgage. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah. We hear stories similar to that 4 hours away on the other side of Virginia. I represent the southwest portion of the state. We hear of a lot of people who can't afford the out-of-pockets and the deductibles, that's forcing them to look at bankruptcy options. The same complaints we heard before that the Affordable Care Act was supposed to fix hasn't worked for my constituents. It clearly hasn't worked on the other side of the Commonwealth of Virginia. I can't speak to the country as a whole, but from anecdotal evidence, it seems that the same is out there. And as you pointed out in your testimony, this is one of the reasons why people are looking at some of these alternatives. I think they ought to know what they're getting, because some people will just buy something because it's cheaper, but some people buy something that doesn't cover everything because they're desperate. Is that true?
That's true, and unfortunately, in many parts of the country, and especially Virginia, if you live in one county, you may not have a choice. This constituent had no other choice in Fredericksburg, and so people are looking exactly for that, to find other ways they can have health insurance they can afford, protect their families, but not be able to pay their mortgage.
It's interesting that you raised that point about the choice, because under the ACA, I represent 29 different geopolitical subdivisions, and for those that aren't from Virginia, we have separate cities. So some of those are small cities as well as counties, but I have 29. A fair number of those have but one provider. They just the market is just not there to support it. I'm surprised that that's the case in the Fredericksburg area, because that's a much bigger area population-wise than some of my jurisdictions, but you're saying they had that problem too. There was just one provider?
Yes, and I would
Of
hope
insurance.
that
Yeah.
Virginia would look at the Section 1332 waivers to figure out how they can attract more competitors back into the markets.
And I would hope that that would be the case too. Let's talk about the woman you spoke of, Janet, with hepatitis C. Could you go over the numbers again of how much she was paying under the plan that resembled what the House was trying to do last year, or 2 years ago now, to do our repeal and replace? With the high-risk pool, she was only paying $275, I think you said, a month for her insurance?
When she was first diagnosed with hepatitis C in 1999, her premiums in the state's high-risk pool were $275 a month. And then they rose when she had to first enroll. That high-risk pool was closed.
But hang on, but before that high-risk pool was closed, you indicated she had to have a liver transplant?
She had to have her liver failed, and she had to have a $600,000 liver transplant.
And that was covered?
Totally covered by the high-risk pool. She had $2,500 out of pocket. But then when the ACA took effect, her premiums rose to $450, and by 2018 they were $1,100 a month. And one of the things I didn't mention in my testimony is that none of her anti-rejection drugs are covered under the new plan, so she has to pay out of pocket $19,000 a year.
Wow. Plus there was a $6,300 deductible, I think you mentioned.
Correct.
And so what you're saying is that this high-risk pool, which was an alternative before the ACA, was an alternative to the ACA, which would work for some people, and we should probably have more choice. Wouldn't you agree, yes or no?
She said yes, and she said, I want the high-risk pool back.
All right. I thank you very much, and I yield back.